Okay, thanks everyone for being available relatively early. We've got a fair bit to cover this morning. Katy and I will say a few things about the budget, then Andrew and I on the ACCC and supermarkets, and then I wanted to also touch on crypto and also the intelligence review which has just been released by the Prime Minister, and then obviously happy to take your questions. We're in the home stretch of the government's fourth budget, and it's going to be a big day, a full day today, putting the finishing touches on the budget so that we can get it off to the printer this weekend, and we're looking forward to telling you all about it on Tuesday night. The budget will reflect the progress that Australians have made together. We've got inflation down, we've got wages and incomes growing again, unemployment is low, we've got the debt down, interest rates have started to come down, and now growth is rebounding solidly in our economy as well. But despite all of the progress that Australians have made together, we know that there's more work to do because people are still under pressure and because there's all of this global economic uncertainty playing out around the world as well. And so the budget will be focused primarily on two things. More cost of living help, where we can do that in an affordable and in a responsible way, and also strengthening our economy and making it more resilient in the face of all of this global economic uncertainty. So it will have that familiar combination of relief, repair and reform in the fourth budget, the same as it did in the third. It will be a very responsible budget. It will help with the cost of living and it will also continue to clean up the mess that we inherited when we came to office 3 years ago. Australians have made a lot of progress together. The budget will reflect that progress, and that progress will be a platform for what we need to do into the future. The budget will be an economic plan to build on the progress that we have made, help people with the cost of living, and also make sure that we're more resilient because the global economy is such an uncertain, volatile and unpredictable place. I'll throw to Katy and then to Andrew.
Thanks, Jim. Morning, everybody. Well, you'll see in the next budget our continued investment in driving gender equality and investments in women. And when you look back over the four budgets, you'll see that each budget or budget update has built on the investments from the October budget where we started this work. For too long, investments in women had been left behind by the former government. Not enough had been done in 10 years to address women's wages, to close the gender pay gap, to invest in violence, ending violence against women, to address gender inequality in women's health, and also in investments in the care economy. We know such a big, important part of our economy, highly feminised areas where women work was being undervalued and underpaid. You will see continued investment in that. So over the four budgets, we've invested in those wages for female-dominated industries. We've invested in childcare and early education and care, in women's health, women's safety, in paid parental leave, in putting super on PPL. We're also addressing the highly gendered nature of our labour force by investing in skills and training and encouraging women into male-dominated jobs, and increasingly, with the wages being addressed in the care economy, seeing more men consider those jobs as good and secure jobs for them. We've also made important investments in women and girls sport, and because of all of these investments, and you'll see more of it in the budget, women are earning on average $217 more per week because of the investments we've made, both through submissions to the minimum wage, but also those investments in particularly in aged care and early education and care. We've seen women's economic participation reach record highs under this government, and we've seen the gender pay gap close to the lowest level ever. So this is what you can do when you have a concerted effort, when you have women's policy at the centre of your economic policy, and when you really take steps through the ERC, through having leadership from the Treasurer, the PM, having the Minister for Women as the Minister for Finance helps to make sure that you can deliver the outcomes that we want. And I should also point out that this investment is testament to the caucus in general, who are 50% women. When you have women represented at equal levels in the political process, you get better outcomes for women.
Thanks, Katy. Andrew?
Well, thanks, Treasurer. Today the government's released the ACCC's grocery competition report. This is the first report in the grocery sector in 17 years. Over the last 17 years, products like kombucha and kale have hit the shelves, but unfortunately we haven't seen a whole lot more competition in the grocery sector. And indeed, this report reveals that the market share of the big two supermarkets has increased over that period. It's seen the entry of Aldi, but the shrinking of Metcash. The report makes very clear that Australia's supermarkets are among the most profitable in the world. And it sounds a cautionary note about what the future might hold, making clear that it doesn't see a future in which Metcash's market share grows substantially, nor does it see a significant competitive threat from Amazon. The report also suggests that the big two may have been playing tag team rather than tug-of-war. It suggests patterns of specials oscillation which look like a little too cosy for the comfort of many Australians. It makes a set of wide-ranging recommendations which the government has said we will accept in principle. Some of those recommendations involve long lead times, others involve consultation with states and territories. We will focus on doing that. But the report makes very clear that the Coalition's approach is not the right way of delivering a fairer deal for farmers and a fairer deal for families. The Coalition voted against Labor's new mandatory food and grocery code, which the ACCC report talks about as an important measure for holding supermarkets to account in their dealings with farmers. This is a significant report, 400 pages, data analysis that covers over 1 billion prices. But there's no suggestion in any of that the Coalition's favoured approach of divestment would deliver better outcomes for farmers or better outcomes for families. Labor's new mandatory supermarket code of conduct comes into effect next month with multi-million-dollar penalties. That's the food and grocery code that the Liberals voted against. We've increased ACCC funding to go after supermarkets who are using misleading pricing tactics. As part of the Treasurer's merger reforms, the biggest shake-up of the merger laws in 50 years, we've made clear that every supermarket merger and land acquisition would need to be notified. We're making it easier for new supermarkets to enter the market with incentives for states and territories to cut planning and zoning red tape through the work that the Treasurer is doing with the Council on Federal Financial Relations, backed by our $900 million National Productivity Fund. We're clamping down on shrinkflation by strengthening the unit pricing code, funding choice to give shoppers more information on the best value supermarkets, and providing over $70 million in low-cost essential subsidy scheme to improve food security. We're also providing supplier education for those suppliers that find themselves negotiating with supermarkets with one hand tied behind their back. Now, the supermarkets won't like that, but farmers will. It'll be welcome news as we aim to provide more information to those suppliers, particularly in the fresh produce area. Shrinkflation, sneaky prices, unfair deals, we're tackling those head on. We are working hard to secure a fairer deal for farmers and a fairer deal for families. We understand that it is critical that the supermarkets do the right thing. We are holding them to account through our existing reforms and through our in-principle adoption of this important new ACCC report.
Yep, thanks, Andrew. We know that Australians are still under pressure, and a lot of that pressure is felt at the checkout. And that's why we're cracking down on the supermarkets, and it's why the budget will have a real focus on the cost of living. You know, even with the progress that we've been making on inflation, we know that people are still under the pump, and we know that the weekly trip to the supermarket can be a source of that pressure, and that's why we're taking all of the very significant steps that we are to crack down on the supermarkets. Cracking down on the supermarkets is all about getting a fair go for families at the checkout and farmers at the farm gate, and that's what this ACCC report is all about as well. The ACCC report is about more scrutiny, more information and more competition, and we are acting on all of those fronts simultaneously. and Andrew has run through all of the ways that we are doing that. Our primary focus as a government is the cost of living, and we're coming at it from every conceivable and responsible angle. Cost of living help, which is already rolling out, combined with keeping the supermarkets in check at the checkout. These are the important parts of our plan. It's important to remember that even with the pressures that people are still under, food inflation was something like 5.9% when we came to office. It's now around half that at 3.0%. What that means is we are making that progress. That progress is welcome and it is encouraging, but we've got more work to do because we know that people are still under the pump. I wanted to touch on two more issues briefly, and then happy to take your questions. First of all is in relation to digital assets. We're releasing our statement today to give certainty and clarity to the industry and to stakeholders and to Australians more broadly about the next steps when it comes to crypto and digital assets more broadly. Crypto and digital assets have a role to play in our economy, and that role will grow over time, and we want to make sure that the growth of this really important part of the economy happens in a way that we can be comfortable with. Data and digital is such an important part of our productivity agenda more broadly, and so with the appropriate framework, we believe that digital assets can make our economy more dynamic. We see in this area big opportunities for our financial sector, our payments industry, our capital markets, and our economy more broadly. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to seize the opportunities that come from digital assets and platforms. We want to encourage investment and innovation and growth, but we also want to make sure that that innovation and growth happens with an element of certainty and security as well. So we're working with the industry and with the regulators. We're proposing a legislative framework in 2025. We've already started talking with experts and regulators and interested parties about what that legislation should contain. But it's quite a detailed statement we put out there today. We've done that in the interest of certainty and clarity. It sets out 4 main steps that we're taking, and it also releases the conclusions of the Board of Tax Review that we did as well in this really important part of the economy. We can be enthusiastic about this part of the economy and recognise that in encouraging that innovation and in encouraging that dynamism that comes from data and digital, that productivity that we get in our financial sector and more broadly, and we need to make sure that that's consistent with keeping consumers and investors safe as the industry evolves quite quickly. The last thing I wanted to touch on was the intelligence review. So the Prime Minister's released the intelligence review in the last half hour or so. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world and there's a lot of risk. We will see that responded to in the budget, and we see that responded to when it comes to the conclusions of this intelligence review. I wanted to give a big shout out and a big thank you to Richard Maud and Heather Smith for doing the review for the government. Also Andrew Shearer and his colleagues for the conversations that we have been having with them about the implementation of the intelligence review. We see this uncertainty and we see this risk in the way that national security and economic policy have become more and more intertwined. They've always been intertwined to some extent, but they're now almost inseparable from each other. And that's because so much of the uncertainty and risk that we see in the world, the geopolitical uncertainty, has an element of economic consequences attached to it as well. So we commissioned the review to ensure that our intelligence agencies are best placed to understand that and advise on that. We are blessed with outstanding agencies and people, and this is about supporting their crucial work. We've released an unclassified version of the report. As you would expect, a lot of the response will be classified, but I wanted to announce today that there will be $45 million in the budget to implement in an initial way the conclusions and recommendations of the intelligence review. This is part of a big 20% increase in funding for national security that we've seen under the life of this government, primarily defence, but funding our intelligence agencies is an important part of the story as well. $45 million in new funding, responding to the recommendations of the intelligence review that we are releasing today. And with that, happy to take